Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We have a special show today. We're talking about profiles and excellence, talking specifically about major accomplishments over the last year. Kevin, you've been recently installed over at Department of Justice. However, you've got a lot of lineage there and have been there in the past for quite some time. I know that you, through the role that you had over at DHS, stayed very stitched together. Tell us about the accomplishments that are happening over at Department of Justice.
Very good. Thank you, Luke. Thank you to you and the other panelists, and to WTOP and Treza Media. Appreciate this opportunity. So coming in to Department of Justice as the Deputy Chief Information Officer, I'm working with Melinda Rogers, our Chief Information Officer, as well as all of our components within DOJ, the different agencies, and our industry partners as well. Want to focus on two things up front here in terms of what we've accomplished as we really take a look across the network landscape out to the cloud. We continue to see the increase in the threat from our nation state and criminal actors trying to get access to our data, trying to cause harm to our mission areas. So one of the areas that we've really been focused on post SolarWinds is continuing to mature our cyber capabilities. Three things there that we're working towards. We've got the strategy in place for implementing zero trust networks. The idea there being that no longer do we trust everything on the network or much of the network. Now different applications, different systems will be only open to those authorized, and those individuals and system connections will need to show that they are indeed authorized to access the data. So the second part of that is, in order to do that, identification and authentication of the users and then checking their authorization, is making sure that we have a good cloud ready identity provider to help and integrate in with that overall zero trust architecture. And then another key area that we're working with DHS CISO on is the implementation of endpoint detection and response. The idea here that we help better understand the users coming in on the system, the activity happening on all of our systems, and also giving our Security Operations Center more capabilities in terms of incident response, being able to capture more data feeds, looking for anomalies from our various adversaries. The other key thing, and I think this is applicable to our other speakers here today, is as we see progress being made towards COVID-19 vaccination, we're working to prepare our workforce for a broader return to the office. We'll probably be looking at some type of hybrid approach where we still take advantage of remote work and telework, looking at the accomplishments that we were able to make over the past two and a half years in terms of really being able to continue productivity and in some cases increase productivity. So we want to continue to support that. But we also want to be able to get folks back in the office safely, make sure that our workforce is safe, so that we can do more collaboration in the office and be able to support folks in the office, support folks working remotely, so that we can continue to move forward, continue to keep high productivity, and at the end of the day, the most important thing, make sure that we're supporting all of our mission areas. So that's been a big effort to get the COVID attestation system in place, working to make sure that we can track who is vaccinated, who has the appropriate approvals, and to continue to work remotely. If they're not vaccinated, get the testing regimes in place as appropriate. So that's been a real focus for us, a real accomplishment to get that in place, getting up close to, or actually over 98% in terms of being able to get feedback from each and every person within Department of Justice in regards to where they stand on COVID attestation. And so we'll continue with that and continue to ensure that our workforce is safe as we change our posture a bit over the next few months and come back into to continue to support the mission, both from a remote standpoint, but also more in the office. Some other things that we can touch upon later, a focus on artificial intelligence, as well as our broader data management strategy. Thank you, Luke.
Right. A lot of moving parts going on over there. And so such a complex environment to have to operate in this sort of new operating model, if you will. And I know that the adversaries really went after actually all of these agencies. I'm not sure about Army, but I certainly know that that DHS, State, and Justice on the SolarWinds went after you all really hard. So I really appreciate all the great work that's going on. Jonathan, I know that ServiceNow has been right smack in the middle of a lot of these efforts that have been described by the various CIOs and deputy CIOs. Tell us about the accomplishments from the ServiceNow perspective and what you're seeing across there in regards to whether it's Afghan COVID or anything else.
Sure. Well, thanks, Luke. Appreciate being here. And you're right. We're playing a role across government in these big, complicated initiatives that really require a whole of government approach, which is a place where a tool like ServiceNow that connects people and things and systems and data really plays an important role. But what I want to talk about builds on what Kevin just was describing, this process of getting people back into an office setting. The future of work is going to be hybrid. I think we've all, sort of agreed to that. But getting people in safely is a big deal, and it was easy to send everybody home. It's a lot harder to bring people back, as we've said in the past. And ServiceNow has been very focused on this across government, working with a number of agencies around concepts of safe workplaces, from seemingly simple things like an employee health screening or managing PPE at different locations to more complex capabilities around reserving desk space in a new hoteling concept within an organization, or which sets you up for contact tracing if someone comes into the office and ends up unfortunately becoming ill. But where we focused a lot of time and attention over the past several months is on this vaccination status tracking that Kevin was just talking about. We weren't specifically working with Kevin and his team. We worked with many agencies, and I think over 300,000 federal employees, used ServiceNow as they uploaded their vaccination cards and provided information to their agencies about their vaccination status or the requirement for some kind of exception. And that was a really big endeavor for whole of the government, and it really, I think, demonstrated the need to be able to shift very quickly to have platforms like ServiceNow that support those quick changes. When the guidance came out that federal agency employees were going to have to be fully vaccinated, it was a little unclear how that information was going to be tracked. And as those requirements evolved, and there was this recognition you have to upload your vaccine card, and it was no longer going to be an attestation, and there was no testing option. We really saw agencies have to pivot, very quickly, as Kevin was describing it. It's a seemingly simple workflow, but oftentimes the devil's in the details, with these things. So how did you manage the vaccination process and the review? Was something that ServiceNow was talking to 10, 15 agencies at a time about these concepts, so we could build a vaccination status application that they all could use with very similar requirements. They had some capability that everybody needed, and also the ability to tailor it a little bit on a per agency basis. And I have to give a lot of credit to the CIO Council, Maria Rote and a few others, who helped bring us together as a federal IT community, so we could have our team, our ServiceNow team, and our engineers talking to several CIOs, several leaders inside these agencies that were doing this work, so we could solve these problems together for everyone who wanted to use our application. And again, we were serving over 300,000 feds at this point, so pretty large number relative to the population. And we found that for the most part, we had a few approaches, for this. We had some places that wanted to build custom applications or develop a unique workflow on the ServiceNow platform. But the majority of agencies we work with use the applications that that we built, and they use them very successfully. And those applications are continuing to be updated and improved. And we're now working with third parties to use AI ML techniques to validate that the cards that were uploaded are really cards. We're working with third parties to validate the QR codes that some agency employees are uploading because they don't want to share personal information through this process. So we're continuing to make these, this vaccination status process better, because these are requirements that, aren't going to go away necessarily. While we've gone through the initial upload and verification at most agencies, the need to supply a vaccination card and prove your vaccination status is going to be a requirement that has to tie into onboarding. It's potential for booster shots to become a requirement for all employees. That becomes part of the definition of fully vaccinated. So we'll have to go through this process again, and we may have to go through it multiple times. So these are really important capabilities for agencies to be very quickly assess the status of their workforce, to bring on new employees, and to do it safely and securely. We fully expect a lot of people to be back in their offices at some point in calendar year 22. It's coming, and we want to do it in a way that positions federal employees to do their best work, to feel safe in their workspace, so they can be engaged in their mission, do the hard work of the federal government, to do the big things that we've heard all of our colleagues on this program talk about so far.
No doubt, and an excellent use case, and we really do appreciate it. Nick, you cannot do this without effectively storing this information, being able to retrieve it, doing it in a modern way, doing it in an efficient way. Give us an example of what you've seen across the whole of government, a use case, if you will, in regards to the accomplishment in respect to using your technology.
Thanks, Luke. And it is inspiring to hear the breadth and diversity of data transformation.
It really is, isn't it?
Digital, yeah, it is. And the digital transformation while operating live across all of these agencies. And I want to give my respect, admiration, and kudos to the leaders on this call who've done incredible work under extraordinary circumstances for the past year. So I think the two things that we looked at this past year in the public sector team at Pure Storage that we're most proud of, the work that we did with the Departments of Justice and Treasury this past year. You hit the nail on the head, Luke. This is not about storage. It's about data service and the ability to leverage that data dynamically across an incredible breadth and range of localities, infrastructure, and of course, applications. Everything that we've heard today really is driven by what can we know and how effectively and efficiently can we make decisions? How can we resource our people? So delivering data to the point of need in a timely, relevant, and accurate fashion has been the principal capability requirement for the entirety of the government since the outbreak of the pandemic. So these are the things we are most proud of. With the Justice Department and with the Treasury, we've been partnering with two of their organizations to really help drive that modernization of their infrastructure to transform it into a powerhouse for digital decision-making and transformation. And that's really what, despite the name saying storage, what we're really focused on is dynamic data service infrastructure. And we've heard it across every agency's capability requirements and data strategy and digital posture statements for the past 2 years. They want to be able to deliver data, protect data, secure their enterprise, and help their people be more efficient and effective. That's exactly what we do. So if we think about that, not as storage, but as data service, the infrastructure necessary to drive that at this scale today across the breadth of architectures that are available, legacy, modern, cloud, on-premises, and off-premises. That's where you see the enterprise infrastructure industry pivoting to, is how do we unify all that in a simple, transparent, and autonomous fashion to enable people to get work done instead of spending time working on their technology to get work done. The analogy you've heard me deliver before is If we all had to rotate our tires and change our oil every morning, we'd never drive our cars. And yet that has been our experience with our enterprise infrastructure. When that's transforming tremendously with the advent of cloud platforms and modernized on-premises infrastructure, and really the delineation between where the data is and what it's on is being blurred by the advent of the modern data experience and technologies that are being adopted by our agencies and by our government branches to enable that same experience that you see in commercial and enterprise organizations in the government today. So the pace of transformation and modernization of the government has been breathtaking. And that's largely driven, honestly, by the pandemic and the immediate need to respond to a large-scale crisis. And everybody on this call has been tremendously effective and successful in steering their organizations to do that. And we've been very proud to partner with literally everybody on this call over the course of the past year. So thank you.
It absolutely is an honor, and we really do appreciate that. We're going to take another short break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.